So Dr. Madelaine Gomes, great to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yep, it's my pleasure. We connected through LinkedIn, which was really cool. You had reached out and just said, hey, there might be some common things that we can discuss. And then when I reached back out to you, you kind of got hit with is he going to try to sell me something, which I thought was really funny.
Yes.
and no, that's not what happened.
No, sorry. Right.
Yeah. It was basically, we found out pretty quickly there was a lot of resonance, a lot of connective tissue in some of our beliefs and some of our experiences and part of our journey. So I believe that you have an amazing story to share in so many ways. I feel that you can add a ton of value to people, and I just want people to get to know you a little bit better, maybe for the few that don't. So just for some context, if you want to give kind of like a 30,000 view of who you are and some of your journey, let's dive right in.
Okay, I owned a company. I built a startup into a top 10 company, and I was the director of that for 20 years. I took unemployed people from the street, like truck drivers, general laborers, and so on, and put them through my own self-development and business programs, improve them, transform their lives, which transformed the business world. And together we built up a top 10 company. So we created a collective success. So that is me in short. During that time, I started to study metaphysical science because my husband passed away. And I just wanted to know, who am I? What makes people tick? What makes me tick? And then one night I played on the computer. I wanted to study it. And I stumbled across metaphysical science. And it's the first time ever that I actually saw the word. And then when I read about it, I realized, but I've been doing this my whole life. And that triggered my interest. And I was like in there like a shot at that stage. Opera was sponsoring the study, which was beautiful. And that's where my journey started in self-discovery. I was already into healing. I did pranic healing from India and a whole lot of other modalities because I wanted to know what's the connection between mind, body, and soul.
Very cool.
And it's absolutely my passion.
Okay, so a lot there. I want to talk a little bit just for some context for people that are listening or watching. Can you dive into a little bit like an overview of what metaphysics or metaphysical teaching is?
I would say it's a deep journey of self-discovery, understanding yourself at a very deep level. It could be philosophy, maybe more spiritual philosophy, and a combination of a whole lot. I've learned so much about myself. I've learned that the power is within me, not out there, which probably was my biggest takeaway, and that I teach people today. Because we live in a society where we compare ourselves and we're looking for validation from the outside and we're never good enough. And all those soul-destroying beliefs that we have. And that, for once, changed my life and made me realize, I've lived a life due to circumstances, always trying to prove myself. It worked. I was very successful. But then I realized that my soul was not fed.
Wow. Okay. So with the understanding and the learning, what are some of the training kind of protocols, or is there like a subconscious training or reframing? Is there healing old wounds, so to speak? Like how does this work in terms of actually doing the work and then integrating it into your daily life?
It's real. It was hard studies, but because I read so many books at my own library at that stage about self-development and metaphysics that I didn't even know it was metaphysics, so it wasn't difficult for me. I did 3 degrees in 3 years, to put it that way, because my son was the surfing champion for South Africa, so while he practiced, I actually literally sat for 4 or 5 hours and study and did my assignments and my thesis and so on. So it was really guided to me and given to me, and it came very easily. And that's why I'm passionate about it, because I know I'm in my purpose when I do it, because of the flow of it. For other people, I know it took longer. It was more complicated, but I enjoy it. It speaks to my soul. So anything that tells me more about me and what's going on inside me, I could immediately resonate with it and apply it and realize, oh my word, this is true, this is what I should do. The Metaphysical University in Sedona standards are very high so that they can pass, obviously, with the educational department in America. And I enjoyed that as well because it kept the standard high and it kept it up at the same time. I never thought I could write a thesis because due to what happened to me in the past in my company, my husband came into the company before he died and he shared the company with me for 2 years. And he always told me that I cannot write. So I bought into it. And before he came in, I wrote all my own letters. I wrote all my own contracts because I had very formal business training before that for years. So I bought into that, and then I believed I can't write. And when I had to write my thesis, I was extremely nervous because I thought, how the hell am I going to write this thing? I can't write. And also my mother tongue is Afrikaans, and I'm writing in English. Sometimes my tenses are mixed up, and I put an S where there shouldn't be an S, and so on. And I had such a complex about it. And I will never forget the day. It was a Sunday when I said, okay, I'm going to do my thesis I did my thesis for my bachelor already. It came back. It was fine. It gave me a bit of confidence, but then I decided, short notice, I'm going to do my doctorate, which I didn't plan to do. But they had a graduation at the university. It was in December. In October the next year, in 2010, and I wanted to be at the graduation. So I had like 2 months to do my doctorate so that I can mark it, send it back, and I qualified to be there for the graduation. So it was pressure. Anyway, and I went to bed that night, and early, it was raining, and I just said to myself, I need to do this doctorate. Nothing's going to stop me. I already saw myself in Sedona. And I woke up at 10 o'clock that night, probably had an hour's sleep. And the thesis just came through me. The words was just given to me. I went and I sat and I started to type, and it took me 3 days. My thesis was done.
Incredible.
So it was just, and that's where my interest in mindset came from.
So, that's an incredible motivation for a lot of people. I mean, we could talk about some of the experiences going back with your son being a surfing champion, because that's probably had its, interesting times, but sticking with, your training and what you were able to go through to be able to learn this in fairly kind of quick and, focused manner. There's a lot of people that most people probably have, unless they've done the work and still have to contend with this, but most people have self-limiting beliefs. And I think that, once people can identify them through introspection or through things like journaling or even things like counseling, therapy, there's a lot of things that people can do to find these and then sit with these beliefs and emotions and feelings and do the work. And so now my question would be, if I'm someone, I know I have personally self-limiting beliefs that I've been working on, and I've been using different methods to, like retraining subconscious mindset and doing some Dr. Joe Dispenza work and all these different things. If someone has these self-limiting beliefs, what kind of training, guidance, or protocol would metaphysics help them with? Like, what would they actually use? Tools, kind of, or like arrow they could take out of their quiver to start working on these self-limiting beliefs and start, retraining the brain? Or how does all that work in your field?
I actually design a program, a workshop and a program that I help my clients with, exactly what you are describing now, because I've been there and I've also been locked up in that for a very long time in my mindset, like sort of the prison of the mind. And I had to fight my way through there because I'm a very proud person, didn't go and ask for any help, So really, I wrote the book about it. So, and what I find is our limiting belief starts with our childhood experiences. 100 and 110%. It's hardly ever that I find anybody who later in life the root goes back to later in life. The root goes back to childhood.
Yeah.
And I didn't think my childhood affected me because I was always so extremely successful. But I grew up in domestic violence. I grew up seeing my mother and my father half kill each other all the time with alcoholism from my dad. And I was an adult at the age of 7 years already, cooking, cleaning, looking after my siblings.
Wow.
And took on huge responsibilities, which I didn't think it's anything, it was part of my life.
Yep.
And then at 15, after a very bad night, and it was at the end, in the middle of my end exam, I had 1 year to go at school, and I woke up in the morning, but I went to bed that night, and I have a voice that guided me throughout my life. And this
Can we talk about that a little bit? I think that's beautiful because I know a lot of people probably have that, and I think keying into it and trusting it is huge.
Yes. When I didn't listen to it, I made the biggest mistakes of my life. But that voice said to me, "You're never going to need school again." So the next morning, I didn't tell anybody. I was 15. I went to school. I handed my books in, and I said, "I'm done with school." And the teacher said to me, she knew my circumstances, and she said, "You know what, I understand, but don't you want to reconsider?" And I said, "No." And I just knew within me, I don't need school.
Wow.
So I went back home. My mom was there, and she said, "Are you sick?" And I said, "No, I'm not sick. I'm not going back to school." And she said, "Why not?" And I said, "Because you don't really give me the environment to study. I never, ever have a chance to study."
Wow. That's
so
deep.
it's very hard for me to be at school and I was doing well, but I could have done 100 times better. And it was unbearable, because I got teased because of my circumstances, and it wasn't good. But
how did that land for your mother when you had that conversation? You said you were 15. When you walk up to your mother at that age in an environment where you probably didn't feel as safe or as trusted as you could because you saw these terrible things, and I've been there too. So you're talking amongst friends. I get it. So how did she receive it, and how did she, I guess, bring it back to you? Was she pissed? Was she, caught off guard? Like, what happened?
She was caught off guard. She never expected it. But I believe that we have a voice coming through us at that divine moment when you're in your space, in your place, and guided, that nobody argues with. And I didn't think it then, but I know it now.
That's powerful.
And the voice that came through me when I spoke to her was so mature and adult. I will never forget that day in my life. She didn't dare arguing with me at all. And she didn't. And which for my mom is very different because she was a strong woman, and it's her way and her only way. So I went the next day. I had 5 rand, I remember, in my pocket money, which is nothing. And I took the bus to town, and I walked shop, asked for a job. Everybody said no, and I didn't give up. And 12 o'clock, I had a job. Lunchtime, I had a job.
I love it. The perseverance and the calling, the intuition, you just followed it. It's and you're talking to a guy that got his teeth cut in outside sales going door to door. So I love that. People admire that. It takes a lot of guts. It takes a lot of people skills to be able to do something like that. And you just went off intuition with really no prior training in this, door to door, but like you were just called to it. So what was that job that you got?
I got a job at Fushini's, which is a retail store selling clothes.
Okay.
Every other place said to me, "Go back to school." I didn't even see it as rejection. I just thought, "You don't understand. I will not." And I just carried on,
Wow.
And then I spoke to a sales lady on the floor, and I said, "I'm looking for a job." And she called the manageress, and she called me into the office. Luckily, she was wise. And she said to me, "Tell me, why aren't you at school?" And I told her the story. And she said, "Start tomorrow." And I started the next day, and it was the start of my career. Very unusual career from there on, but the start of my career.
That probably taught you a lot too. Like probably reaffirmed your decision to listen to that voice.
I didn't know at that stage that I was so in tune with the voice that I didn't think anything of it. And I followed it for a very long time. And when I didn't follow it, I really burned my fingers extremely badly. And that is how I became aware of this voice and the power of the voice. But also, I can tell you, I had a very traumatic experience in my business later on. And I fell into depression because of that and went into the dark night of my soul.
Can we talk about that experience? Is that okay?
Sorry?
Can we talk about that experience?
Yes, we can. But that voice changed into a dark voice. And now I know, depending on where you are in your life or in your life, you must be careful when you listen to that voice.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah. So what was this traumatic experience in your business, and walk us through some a little bit around that and how you started to work yourself through that and what you learned from it.
I was a top 10 businesswoman in the newspaper. I worked with politicians. I took company staff over and managed it for them on their behalf. Very difficult workforces, but somehow we made it work. I was the only woman in sight, but it was beautiful how I transformed lives, and it just worked well. So I met this man. It's now after my husband passed away, at a function, and he started to pursue me, and this boy said no. So I resisted him for 3 months, and then my sister said to me, well, when you give in, maybe it will stop.
Okay.
So I met him for a coffee, and it led to another coffee, and I eventually became a relationship sort of thing. And then I realized, not my type of guy, And a year later, I said to him, listen, I'm not interested. A lot of lies transpired there, and I realized he's more after my business as well. And it's not so, it's not a holistic situation, but be it as it may, I was in survival mode. I lost my husband, got a huge company that I actually built now and became much bigger than ever before. And I didn't pay attention, and my voice kept on saying no. And anyway, so I thought by then he's out of my life. And then he returned back into my life, and he wanted to introduce a partner. So he talked me into that for a short while. Didn't work. And we parted ways again. And then I thought I parted ways with him forever. But I didn't. And what I didn't know is he became super obsessed with me. And what I also didn't know is that he was the head of the mafia. Wow. So he planned my fall. And a couple of years later, to just put it in short, my company was targeted by an organized crime syndicate. And they were very clever the way they worked. They moved into my neighborhood, very close to me, and where they had an eye on me all the time. And then they infiltrated my staff. So the one manager was on their payroll, the way I understood it. And so they got information. And slowly but surely, they were digging into my business. And then my clients alerted me that they came and actually spoke to them. And they were on my side, my clients, But then I let this manager that worked for me go due to the fact that he was caught for drunken driving. And when I did that, they hit straight at me at my house. And they tried to get entry at my house when I wasn't there. And I laid a complaint to the police, and I asked for a protection order, and I realized there's a problem. So I went back to the manager, and I realized he's the link. And my PA and I went back to him, and we said to him that they've spoken out, and, we took a chance, and he just spilled the beans. And he told us everything.
Wow.
And from there, for 2 years, I was targeted. I was followed. My house was under surveillance from them. I was intimidated. My phone was tapped. My computer was hacked in. I had no life. I had to look over my shoulder. I had a guard in my house. I had a huge house next to the sea, beautiful. I had a guard that looked after my son and myself. And it became unbearable because I knew I'm in danger. And it just became worse and worse and worse. And then I realized they're not going to give up. And close to the end of my trauma, we went in and out of court. They had their contacts there, so I got nowhere. It's postponement. And they would say to the judge, no, it's her doing that. It's not us. And then I walk out with a warning instead of a protection order.
Right.
So I became so disillusioned and I had photos and evidence of what's happening to me, and they discarded that. So I had to change legal teams on a regular basis because of what was going on behind the scenes. Anyway, and just before the end, the same man, so-called, bumped into me one day. I was taking a walk next to the sea while my son had extra maths lessons, and then I realized, wait a minute, but how did he know I'm here? It's a short walk, nobody could see me. And I started to put two and two together, and I allowed him back. And I thought, okay, I am at risk. I might die in this story. They want my business, that's for sure, because by then I investigated them as well. So I knew exactly what they're into and what they were doing and who they are. And I just couldn't put the final links together. And I allowed him in, and I pretended that I trusted him. He had a drinking problem, so he started in the mornings and then he speak. So I started to tie myself nicely. Then he wanted to move into my house because he sold his place, which was a lie, looking for a temporary place for a month. And I said, okay. I just alerted everybody in my circle what I'm doing so that they know if anything happens to me, this is what it is, and they can keep an eye on me. And that way I got the end of the story, and I realized what was going on. And eventually I realized it's too much. I need to close my doors. I packed up my valuables of my house. I kicked him out and closed the doors, closed my business, and just move as fast as I can, because I realized the new sugarcane season is going to start, and I took over the sugarcane season. They want that business, and I need to get out of the way. So I spoke to all my clients and closed everything and moved away. And I moved to Cape Town.
Wow.
My house was there with most beautiful furniture next to the sea. We had nothing. We moved into a small cottage. And shell-shocked because we didn't sleep for 2 years. I was always alerted. My mum was always with me so that I could get a night's sleep, because I jumped my wall and I did all sorts of things. And then I went into the dark night of my soul. I mean, it was probably meant to happen, that no human, I believe, can actually, when I think back and look back, I don't know how I got through it on my own. But anyway, and in the dark night of my soul is when this voice changed, because now it became dark. Now, you should have done it differently. You should have done it better. You should have done this. You should have done that. Now the self-doubt kicked in. You're not good enough, and I've never felt so useless in my life. I couldn't fit in anywhere because nothing made sense to me. I lost my husband, I lost my brother, I lost my father. So my whole protection system was out the way. And now my business, I was the person in the family who made the money, who looked after everybody. And now all of a sudden I had no money.
Yeah.
I had no income. I didn't know where I fit in. And I just couldn't get my head around it. So I just went downhill all the way into the dark night of my soul, finding myself at the deepest level. And then start to surface from there. Just one day, I can go on for years about that. But anyway, and then just one day I sat in my car and I said, now, who am I? Where do I fit in? What the hell? What now? And it's like this voice, the good one, popped up and said, okay, let's compare your life and your beliefs now. You really cross with God. You do not believe in anything. And you don't fit in anywhere, and you don't want to be near people, because I didn't trust anybody. So sort of my soul scattered in a million pieces, I believe. And it's like, how do you get those pieces back, and how do you become whole again? And this voice said to me, okay, compare your beliefs in this time and compare your beliefs that made you successful. Which one do you want? And that was the turning point for me. because I knew what worked in the past. And slowly but surely, I literally see myself as like climbing up this ladder from the hole, belief by belief by belief. It didn't happen overnight. It took about 18 months, and getting to the top and thinking, oh, I can breathe. Okay. And then I realized, okay, what is my purpose? So then I started another exercise of finding my true purpose. And it was so beautiful when I realized I've always been in my purpose. I just didn't know it and didn't see it. But now that I know it, it's so beautiful because now I can align every area of my life with my purpose. And my purpose is to transform other people's lives. That's what I've always been doing. And it's to help people heal. And the healing side came in profoundly now because of my experience. I understand other people's pain. So to come back to your question is how do I identify it is you go back to the root of the belief of why you're not good enough. Somebody said something to you that hit you so hard at that moment, it became a belief. And if you can see the wisdom in that situation and not the pain, if you can transform the pain into wisdom, and you can let the pain go and forgive the people and let them go and take the wisdom as part of your journey, then you can transform that situation into healing.
It's incredible. Thank you for that. That's a amazing life journey. And for you to go all the way back to your deepest, darkest spot, and as cliche as it might sound, but start looking for these micro steps in the right direction. And then you start building some confidence and some awareness and some belief back in yourself. And over 18 months of, moving forward, you finally got to a place where you've been able to, you've gone through your hero's journey, going through it, and you're also able to show up for other people better. First by showing up for yourself. And so when you're teaching people and leading people and mentoring them and guiding them and helping them grow, you've walked it too. And you've walked that same path. And I think that's beautiful. Whenever you're an advisor or a mentor, it's always a lot, I think, more profound and more impactful when you can talk about you've been through the same exact thing, maybe a different lane, but pretty much the same thing. And this is how you did it. And this is how you can duplicate and show people how to do the same thing. And so, again, I think that's a beautiful, came from a trauma, came from a horrible place. I can't even imagine, I've been scared in my life, but to go 2 years in fear for your life and not being able to sleep and all these different things that are happening and, this level of distrust you have with people and potentially even yourself with movement patterns and things that you're doing, what a hell of a place to be. That's not for anyone. Right. And so to work through that really just based off of your ability, your background, your training to get through that there's no words to express how unbelievable that is. It's beautiful. And so now you get through these 18 months of repair and right-siding yourself. What's the next iteration from there? Where did you move to from there? Like in terms of career or life or belief?
I realized that my power is within me. I know now who I am. It doesn't make me less sensitive to the outside world, but it does make me aware of my triggers. And it does make me aware of my thoughts that create my reality. So when I go into default and start to have limited beliefs, I can catch them now. And I can say, well, where are you coming from? You're not welcome here, and override them. So I'm very conscious about that. But it also gave me a tremendous insight into people. And I'm very intuitive when I work with people. So, for instance, I had somebody that worked with staff, and but he worked himself to death, and a brilliant person, but no balance at all. And then I realized he had a similar story as me, growing up and wanting to prove himself and being used to being the breadwinner, the supplier, the everything for everybody. And never really sat down and take some time out and think, why are you overworking yourself? Why are you avoiding what you should actually look at and heal? And he made the most amazing discoveries in 2 sessions. And he said to me, I will be his guru for life, because nobody could help him up to now. But I could just identify the spots of where the root of it is. And that's when I see my journey now as a blessing. I see my studies, which I never saw. I never thought, where am I going with my studies? But it's my passion. And I always wanted to open a wellness center for people that's under stress and pressure and all sorts of things, and come for holistic treatments and sit and meditate and teach them all sorts of beautiful stuff. And I never had, since this happened, I don't have the money to do that. But I thought that is where it's leading me. But now I can see how I've been taken out of that life that I knew maybe before the time already it's not working for me anymore. But because of my common sense or logic kicking in and say, but what if you let go of this and you sell the company, who's going to look after your mom and your sister and this and that, And then you just carry on like before. But inside me, I was unhappy already. And I didn't pay attention to that. So now I can see, I actually want to thank them and say thank you, because I would not be the person I am today if this didn't happen. It wasn't a pleasant experience. It was traumatic. I believe not many people would come through it, because their aim was to drive me crazy. And so that I look like the baddie and nobody believes me. And they nearly got that right. And I'm so grateful that I never, ever allow myself that last step to sink deep. And in fact, not in front of them at least. And I can see now the reason for my studies are coming through, how I'm helping people. And I'm still on a journey. Because I'm used to leadership development, I'm used to the serious business world, and it's a transition from there to the healing side of it. But I also realize that because I know the business world so well, and because I know of the pressures of being a leader, and a conscious leader is even more pressurized, and I can now offer them the healing that they need and the guidance like they need. And I often get the message, although I don't put it out there because I feel as there's still a bit of ego in there, but I get the message, you are the guru for the leaders in a spiritual way. And it's probably where I see it's leading me slowly but surely going there.
So there's this consciousness awakening that's been happening, and I feel like it's, worldwide. And there's a lot of people that have done a lot of work leading up to this. And there's a lot of people that are becoming aware and doing things like working on their spirituality or their closeness with God, whatever that looks like for them, and working on ego. And ego can be good and bad depending on how it's used. And there's a lot of information that's out there. And I feel like people, at least in my perspective, I feel like there's this vibration that's getting louder, and it's pulling people together as much as we're going through crazy times. Like we're in the coronavirus pandemic. We're going through, Black men that are getting killed, slaughtered on the streets, and the civil unrest and protest, rightfully so, that's going on. But amidst all that, even kind of, I feel like there's just this resonance and this vibration that's happening with people. And so I feel like we've talked about this, I think, as well before jumping on today's podcast. How do you implement your walk with your spirituality and with your personal growth and development into that business context? Because even though that all that's happening out here, there are some people that either aren't aware of it or don't know what it feels like or sounds like. So you have to kind of come in under a lens of business professional, executive, this kind of thing, consultant. But then you bring what really matters to people to the table, and the training and the love, the healing, the help. How do you marry the two together?
It is complicated because I always have to remind myself that people are on their own journey. So I will appear and I will maybe make a comment or post a post. And most of my posts are also channeling through me. And then people will respond on that. And I am not forcing anybody, because I know through my own journey, when you're ready and there's a teacher, you will ask for help or you will listen. And I had many teachers on my way that appeared at certain times, even if it's just for a short time, but they lifted me. They gave me that lift that I needed at that moment, that brought the right message across to me, that resonated with my soul, and that helped me to take that one step forward. And I always remind myself of that. And then on the bigger scale, yes, we are in a change of nurturing. We're going into a Mother Earth that's nurturing, that needs nurturing. And we're moving away from too much masculine energy that's done the damage in the past to more people want nurturing. They want feminine, a mix of feminine and masculine, but not so overpowering like in the past. So what's happening now, what I see from it is it has to come to the surface. Otherwise, you can't change it. So it's like Mother Earth is vibrating at the highest vibration at the moment. For a reason, it's like a pimple that's waiting to pop, and it's like boiling at the bottom, and it's coming up, and boom, it's happening. So the chaos that we see now had to happen for the change to come. If there's no chaos, there's nothing, no change. So when you look at it and you take a photo of just before this happened, in the coronavirus already, we were all forced to be on our knees, isolated, shell-shocked about what happened. So what do? You have to go within. Who am I? Where are we going from here? The whole world's been put into fear, into the first energy center of the body is fear. And if you're not strong and you're not working through your blocks there, you will be gripped by that fear and you will create more of it. So we were either forced to recreate the second energy center, recreate your reality, or you're going to be stuck in the fear and the lack and everything else that fear brings to you. And that's what happened to the world. We were in the first center. So now the second center is we are in creation. So how do you create? You cannot create on something that's dark already and corrupted already. You have to let it boil over so that it's a clean slate, and then you create what's new for the future. So although it's chaos at the moment, it won't be for long, because we will be moving into beautiful. I mean, the people who's been discriminated on before, I feel for them. Especially because of your skin color, you don't even ask for it. It's how we are all born, And I believe it's going to be beautiful for everybody going forward, because this had to come to the surface. So now we can create the life we want. We can create the rules that's there for everybody. But they need healing. They need to calm down their anger, their resentment, because otherwise, if you harbor anger, resentment, and unforgiveness within your body, they form bodies within your body, which covers your deep truth.
Your pain body, yeah.
Yes. So do you want to allow this to take you over so much that you can't even see your own beauty surface? Because when the change comes, you need your beauty to be part of it, not the anger and the resentment that they're harboring now.
I'm looking forward to the time, and hopefully it's in our lifetime, because our lives are so fast compared to the history of just the universe. Like it's nothing. And I'm hoping that this consciousness awareness and this, you talk about Mother Earth or Gaia, like speaking to us and trying to help us understand that, like, we need to course correct and get back to what we need to, what's important, which is love, which is community, which is helping each other move along, no matter skin color, whatever, race, creed, religion, all that stuff, like beliefs. Everybody's going to be different, but we can all move together forward. And so what do you think that looks like in your perspective, in your lens, since we are going through a time of transition and now creation for a new earth, right? Eckhart Tolle just talking about leveling up. What do you feel like is what can we evolve to as a human race? And is that going to be, in our lifetime?
I believe it's in our lifetime. If you look how quickly this happened in a couple of months, that we are on a fast vibration. Change is happening very fast at the moment. There's lightning speed. I don't believe we need a new earth. I believe we people need to heal. The earth is looking after herself. She's the most powerful creator of all. And she doesn't wait for anybody. She doesn't need us to approve or disapprove. Look how beautiful she became just by taking people away and locked them away. And she healed. So yes, we need to look after the earth and become more conscious of what we do with the earth, because we are, we co-creators. But people need to start to resonate their vibration with the earth. And that is loving, caring, consciousness, looking after each other, caring for each other instead of hate and resentment and judgment, and that is now surfacing. So that is part of the chaos. Then we're moving into boundaries. Then the rules and the boundaries are going to come. Okay, from here on, moving forward, this is what it's going to look like. And then it's in the heart chakra. So expand and open and allow people in, allow love and forgiveness and everything that we need in our hearts to make it softer. And when you open your heart energy center, you're also expanding yourself to receive. And then speak the language, then it's going to happen where we're going to speak up. We're going to say, we're not happy with this, and people are going to listen. Where before, they're to kill to be heard, which is crazy. And, it's a long story. And then hopefully people will be connected enough to follow their intuition and to be more aware of who they are. Because ultimately, most people are disconnected from who they are. So if they can just connect and start to realize they're beautiful, they're unique, they came here with a purpose, embrace that. You don't need to go and destroy shops and all of that to make a point. I understand the point, but really, there's going to be better ways to communicate in the future, and people will listen. So, and I also believe we're dealing with generational, imprints of past generations that imprinted the hatred that we see now into the next generations.
100%. Yeah.
And now this generation needs to realize, but they need to stop this repeating of a cycle. If they want a new earth for their children, they need to stop it. They need to take responsibility for themselves. They need to start to be conscious of who they are so that their children do not repeat the same cycle.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of beautiful instances of humanity over the last few months. Yeah. And there's, through all the trauma and all the pain that people are facing. And I think that's one beautiful thing is we all find a way to come together even through the darkest times. And so I think it'll take some time. It may take decades, and hopefully, we'll get to see it, or our children can see it. But I think it is coming. It's just a matter of getting there. So I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about Reiki healing in terms of your experience with it, and teaching, being a healer, and also like your practice and walk with it. And if you could just tell people a little bit about it that don't know what it is.
I do Reiki, but I'm very passionate about pranic healing from India, which is literally energy and understanding where the block is in the body and what emotion caused the block in the body, and then literally taking that block out of the body and replace it with loving energy so that area can heal. And I've seen
one second. I don't want to cut you off. I'm sorry, but as far as is it chakras that you're dealing with?
It can be chakras, it can be organs, it can be places in the body where the energy is blocked. Like I've done a talk today on the second energy center, where if your kidneys and your legs and your feet and your immune system and your bones are giving you problems, they're starting with resentment, not feeling good enough in yourself. You're cutting yourself off from your beauty. and it's causing a block in that area. And so when people complain to me about a tummy, their tummy's in a knot, then I ask them, okay, what emotion caused it? Who made you so cross? And normally that's a relationship issue. So what happened in your relationships to cause this block in your tummy or this knot in your tummy? And my belief is these negative emotions that we harbor and that we hold on to because we're so cross, and I've been there myself, so I know. We're so cross at that moment for those people and for the situation and everything. And you feel if you let go, then you don't want to let go. You want to hold on to the dagger, to say the least, But when you let go, you're actually freeing yourself from that negativity. It doesn't mean what they've done is right, but it means you've got your freedom back. But unfortunately, we're also humans and we want to hold on to that anger for as long as possible. But that anger causes all sorts of disease in the body.
Yep. It starts off with dis-ease, right? It starts off with the dis-ease and then becomes an actual disease. Yeah.
And then it manifests into a serious illness if you're not careful.
Yep.
And that's where our illnesses, not all, but most are stemming from, is our own toxic emotions that's causing it, and we're harboring it. And for me, my biggest journey and lesson and hardest one in the whole process was to find forgiveness. And I realized forgiveness is such a cheap word that people use. It is such a hard thing to do. It is such a journey to really get to the point where you don't care what happened to them anymore. They're not even on your mental radar anymore. They cannot upset you anymore because you forgive them and you let them go. And they're not part of your vibration anymore because you're on a level, they're still there, you are there.
Yeah.
And if you can realize that in forgiveness, then I think that is the most beautiful journey to walk for yourself, is to find that freedom in your heart that day.
There's two things I want to bring up there. One's kind of a quote, and then the other one has to do with being triggered. So the first one is, I heard this somewhere along the lines, and it landed for me because I'm on my path of learning and growing, and spiritually, business-wise, relationships, health and wellness, just on this journey. I feel like I've been called to it. And I heard this quote somewhere. I am the furthest thing personally from enlightened, and I don't know if I'll ever get there. But I heard someone once say that if you want to know if you're enlightened or not, spend 3 days with your parents. and all those triggers and all those emotions and those mother-father wounds, like Carl Jung talks about. But those will come up for you on the surface. And so, in thinking of that, you mentioned this way back in the beginning of the conversation about the word being triggered, and we're talking about it now too, in terms of how you respond to people, whether it's your parents, whether it's your significant other, whether it's business partners, whatever it is. And I know forgiveness, and for me personally, forgiveness has been really big in my life. Forgiving myself for things, forgiving other people, it's been huge. But there are those times, and specifically for me, I had one yesterday, where I got triggered from someone that, just this person is someone that kind of knows, or maybe innately can trigger me. And I let that happen. And I go into this situation knowing, I try to go in with love, and I try to go in with open mind. And it's just, I haven't forgiven them for some things yet. So that's probably part of it. I haven't forgiven myself for some things that I've done. But what are some things people can do to let that happen less, to not get so overwhelmed where your whole demeanor changes and you go from this loving, open being to being completely shut down and pissed off?
Normally it's people close to you that knows you, but you don't have boundaries with them. You forget to put the boundaries up. So we train them to treat us like that. And until you tell them that that's not on anymore, they will continue doing that. So you might change in your journey, but you do need to take responsibility for your change and say to them, this is the gate from now on. It's not an open gate anymore to my emotions. And they need to get used to you putting your boundaries up and say, this is who I am now. And I won't allow that. That's the first place. Then the second thing that works for me is the minute I want to get drawn into it, I look at it and I say, what is hurting in them to do this, to react like that? So you're a trigger for them. You think you're a trigger for you, but you're a trigger for them.
100%.
So what is hurting in that person to do this to me?
My existence.
Yes, because no, it can't be, because we all have a right. So what you can't really feel, it is something within that person. And you reflecting that every time that person sees you. And until they're not healing what they need to heal within themselves, you are going to remind them about that all the time. So you should not take it personally. You should just rather ask yourself, what is it that they see in you that needs healing within them? Especially if you're not doing anything to piss them off.
How do you have that? I mean, you can't come out if someone's in that mindset or frame of feeling where they're triggered by me, and then therefore I get triggered because of how they're receiving me or reacting to me. How do you, I guess, do you just let them go through life and like figure that out? Or how do you have that conversation, if at all, saying, I feel that I see this about you, I notice this about you, and it comes back towards me in a negative manner? Like, how do you have that conversation?
You just say it out. You nicely say, is there anything in me that reminds you of some work that you need to do? Because you're planting the seed. But the main thing in a situation like that is don't show them that they trigger you, because you are sensitive. And that's what triggers you. It's the way you get, the whole situation. So try and guard your sensitivity at that moment and know it's not about you. Because we take things on personally, but when we take it on personally, it becomes personal. So then it's going to sit in your body. It's going to worry you, and it's going to load you with another body of what now? What am I? I'm not good enough. I'm not this. I trigger this. And don't allow that to happen. If you know that it's not you and that person's doing it every single time, then they need to work on themselves. And what will work is they want to see the reaction that they used to, because they feed off that reaction.
Yeah.
Now, next time, you're not giving that reaction and you stay nice and calm and just ignore it. Don't even give an opinion. You just ignore it. In other words, you're starving the reaction or the expectation. Eventually, it might die down, because when what you don't feed don't grow.
Right. That's right. Yeah. Let's see how practicality sets in the next time. we'll see how actually
you can do it.
Yeah, I believe so. And I've had many like interactions where there wasn't a problem. It's just the one-offs that are I want to diminish altogether and like get rid of. So so what are you looking forward to for the rest of 2020 in this very strange time that we're living in, the strange part of our story as a collective? Like what's going on that you're looking forward to for the rest of this year?
You know what? I don't set goals. I set intentions. I'm past the goal stage. So I teach my clients to set goals, but I set an intention and I try and keep it as pure as possible, but I also keep my mind open so that I do not miss opportunities that comes my way because I'm so focused on what I want. And I just say, I surrender. I'm here. Take me where you want me to be. And that's the most beautiful place to be for me, coming from a control position and always being in control of my life. And now I surrender and I say, take me where you want me to be. So there's amazing things that happened in my life since I've done that. In the last month, I do public speaking on business topics, but as well as metaphysical topics and self-development. And people just love it. And I weave them all into each other, especially when I speak to the youth. And they love it. They feed off it. And I've done a public talk to the youth in Ghana, 300 people, about procrastination. I never, ever thought it is going to be anything. And it turned out to be the most amazing, amazing night of my life. And Ghana and Kenya, Ghana and Nigeria. I've done a talk about leadership in Australia that triggered somebody to contact me at a university in Asia and want me to speak to them about leadership, future visionary leadership there. And it's just amazing the doors that slowly but surely open. And I just have to trust the process because I don't have financial security, and I just, where before I had, now I live from day to day. And I just have to trust the process that the right people will be on my path. The right people will come to me that needs healing, but also the right business people will come to me that needs guidance.
Yeah, surrender is a beautiful thing. And I learned of this concept over the last year and trying to step into that for myself. And it's work, and it takes adapting and just kind of like understanding the concept of it, and then just surrendering and just, everything's going to happen the way that it should. And as long as you're putting out the right intentions and you're helping people, karma kicks in and probably helps you out a lot. So I think that's part of our connection too, because what could have stopped immediately, where if you were afraid I was going to, sell you something and I was that person, that would have been it. Right. Yes. But we talked past it for a few moments, and right away we realized there was a connection there. So I think it's beautiful what we've been able to find in terms of us connecting and some of the things that we'll be able to kind of collaborate on as we move forward. And everything that I can do to connect you with other opportunities and vice versa, I'm definitely excited about. So what we'll do is I'll have he's known as the podcast engineer. His name's Carl Hood. I'm just going to give him a plug right now. He's amazing. Local to Atlanta. He does all the editing for the Jesse T Show podcast, and he does all these other beautiful things. I'll have him take care of any contact information for you. We could put it in the show notes, so when people hear or watch the episode, they can find you. But just a quick little thing for you. Do you want to put out, do you have any, the best way for people to find you?
Well, they can email me on info@MadelaineGinternational.com, or my website is www.madelainegomes.international. So, or they can contact me through you.
And off the cuff, completely unprepared. So I apologize for doing this. But as far as if someone's in their dark night of their soul and they need help, they're going to reach out to you, I would hope. But like, what are some words of wisdom or positivity you can leave for them?
I am there for people like that, and they can contact me on my cell phone so that I can make contact with them. I had somebody 2 weeks ago who wanted to take her own life. And we just started together and do a gratitude list immediately of what she's got to be grateful for about half an hour. And it worked. It changed her mind and brought her out of that space where she saw no hope. And then she realized, wait a minute, my kids, my mother, I'm doing an amazing job and I'm needed. And people need that, especially single people. They've got nobody to come home to at night and say, you know what, it's not that bad. Yeah. So as bad as it is, that is what it is for a single person, because there's nobody to say, listen, it's not that bad. Let's make a plan. I'm here for you. You're not alone in it. Or no, you are just seeing the worst. It's not like that. We don't have that. Yeah. And so I feel for that. And that is normally the people who feel so overwhelmed because they're lonely. And who gives them a hug? Who tells them they're loved? Yeah. People don't think about that. When you're a couple, they don't even do that. They don't realize what they've got.
Yeah, I've heard this calling stacking gratitude. Find one thing in your life that you can be grateful for. And for me, I've gone through ups and downs in business and in life. And I've done this myself personally, where I was thankful for waking up. I was thankful for the health that I had. I was thankful for other things. And once you start adding those things together, you really can't work yourself out of a dark place. So I think that's beautiful. So thank you so much. You've been amazing. I love everything about you and your vibe and your connection and your energy. I'm looking forward to seeing how our relationship progresses in the future. She's the amazing, mighty, and powerful Dr. Madelaine Gomes. I'm Jesse T. Be sure to catch us on next week's episode of The Jesse T Show.